Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. We've got a great show today. We're going to talk about, getting into debt and taking your last $100 and basically turning it into a multi-million dollar revenue type business, and then spinning off multiple businesses through that. And I think this is a good conversation about grit and resolve and to just keep going. I think a lot of us out here as entrepreneurs, sometimes maybe you're still in your W-2, or you're looking for a change, or maybe you're just got laid off, right? And you're in these positions. And I think today's conversation with Matt is going to be all about resolve, grit, and kind of moving the needle forward every day. So Matt's story really, he was in a corporate banking world, and I believe he got laid off, and he was essentially like 200 grand in debt, 100 bucks to his name. So at that point, he was like not having a very good time in life. And something within, though, said, hey, let's do this. He had some prior experience, I believe, during college doing the painting. And so he knew the painting business. And then with this last $100, he starts this painting company called M&E Painting, which expanded pretty rapidly. And as he was growing that, then he branched off and he started a roofing company, right? So like we talk about a lot about platform businesses. So like, I bet Matt saw the need for roofing because he was doing painting, and he's painting, doing the gutters, and like all of a sudden it's like, well, we should start a roofing company. So long story short, he's now has 6 businesses, does a lot of, has written 2 books. I think Painted Baby's coming out next, but you've won a lot of awards for 40 under 40 and at numerous awards, and you do a lot of public speaking now. So it's going to be awesome to have you on the show. So welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
So this was 2005 when you got laid off, and
Yeah.
And so what was going on in your mind? Like you had like so much debt, you were probably stressed out. I don't know if you were married at the time, but it was probably a very stressful situation. So what clicked with you to say, hey, let's just go all in, but this is like kind of like our last chance, or we're gonna have to like BK or something.
Yeah, it was, I was 23 years old, and growing up, I grew up in New Jersey till I was 10, moved out to Colorado, 10 years old. And I started a little lawn mowing business. I asked my parents for a couple $100 for a boombox. They wouldn't give it to me, but they'd let me borrow their lawnmower. So, from an early age, I got bullied a lot growing up, and was pretty scared of the world in general. Didn't have a lot of resources, tools, or confidence, but like business was my space. Going out, knocking on a door, talking to somebody, making something happen. I knew how to do that from a young age. Always loved telling stories and just chatting with people. So when I get fired, I had 4 previous years of experience with a college painting company while I was at Colorado State University. But yeah, I mean, saying that I got laid off was putting it nicely. They had a new bank president come in, and he called me into his office. He's all dressed up, suit and tie, big banker's desk. And he said, put all your shit in a box, you're fired. It was very demeaning, degrading. And then he said to me, he's like, maybe you should go do that painting thing that you did in college. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, 200K in debt, recently married, upside down home that I never should have purchased, car loan, student loans, but like just list them off, right? So I leave, and I'm standing in the parking lot of that bank, and it was a very pivotal moment, like a lot of fear, anger, anxiety. But I'm like, man, I don't ever have to work for that guy again. I can go make my future, and I can go win, lose, draw, whatever it is, and it's going to be on me. So yeah, that's when we started the business. I called a few painters on the drive home. And for me, I needed to have an answer. I needed to be able to tell Emily, my wife, something when I walked through that door. She's like, hey, you're home early. You home for lunch? I go, yeah, I got a permanent lunch. So we can go eat as long as we want, but I should probably go work. And then I just went out and started beating the street, knocking on doors, and made it happen.
Awesome. That's so awesome. So like once you started the business, you obviously, we're hitting the ground hard. At what point did it really start growing this business? Was it the first 12 months, or did it take a couple years? And then kind of walk through the progression of like, then is that when you started the roofing company, like year 5, when your painting business was taken off, or was it 10 years later? And then how did you grow all these 6 businesses that you have today?
Yeah, no, really, really good question. So I had 4 years of previous experience. So I tell somebody if you're getting into a new business, painting, roofing, insurance, mortgage, whatever it is, I had a little bit of background, and I tell people that. So the goal was to do $500,000 that first year by the end of the year. So I mean, on paper and what that would seem to somebody else, that was a pretty quick, pretty fast growth right off the bat. I'm a big believer in businesses find that one thing that you're really good at that you really succeed at to go generate leads and track it and measure it and put intentional time in your calendar to where you're going to lead generate. And then from there, you've got to sell and then deliver and then get paid. So I was very clear on that. I was driven by a lot of just anger and a lot to prove to the world. So that'll take you only so far. But I would say that the growth happened pretty quickly. But there's definitely a difference between growth, scale, and building a business. Those are three different things. I just worked harder and I worked more and I worked longer hours and I grew the business. But scaling, in my opinion, is where you can lead other people, direct other people, and start putting things on them that they can then go take responsibility for. And it wasn't till 2020 that we actually added roofing, gutters, all this other construction. We get a lot of hail out here. So we spent, again, 15 years passing all this money off to other roofing companies that were making it more complicated. The homeowner wasn't getting this consolidated experience and it was just a mess. So we actually did that during COVID. We saw an opportunity and took it. But my journey was, really good at business, marketing, sales, really awful at leading people and understanding the responsibility you have as a business owner to invest in people's lives and their leadership and their development. So when I did that, that's when M&D Painting and all these other companies really started to scale.
That's cool. And I think that you went deep with the painting business, and then I think it's easier, like, because I'm always looking like, well, what other businesses can I start, right? Like what, and it seems that if you do like a kind of platform, like what are you already integrated to do? Like what's next? Instead of like starting something completely different, you went to something that was like
Yeah.
natural, like you're already getting the leads, you already have the customer base,
Yeah.
and so forth. Have, now everything you've done, you've started on your own. You haven't bought in any businesses or did any acquisitions. It was all ground up
No,
stuff.
so everything's starting at zero with an idea, a passion, a vision, or a frustration. So I mean, chronologically, uh, let's see, 2010. My buddy and I, David, we painted in college together, and we just got fired from an interior paint job because we promised the homeowner, "Oh, that little drywall patch, that knockdown texture, yeah, we'll figure that out. Like we won't charge you for it." So we're in there with a spray can, just making this thing uglier and uglier. And she's like, "Just get out of here. You guys obviously don't know how to do drywall. You probably don't know how to paint." We're sitting at a burrito shop, just frustrated. So David draws out this little tool on a napkin and he said, "If you could build this, we could fix this texture just like magic almost on a wall." And I said, "Well, if you can build it, then we'll go sell it." And we ended up patenting this idea. And we created something called the Pirate Patch drywall repair tool. So, it spun off of a frustration within the painting business. And then, we went from wholesaling that to we were in Ace Hardware, Sherwin-Williams, not really doing well. It's get paid little, get paid late, and we transitioned that to all online, so Amazon and Walmart.com, and that's really taken off. We've had some cool calls from big names and people interested in it, but it's just kicking off mailbox money. But then other businesses, I do some real estate, and we own a jujitsu academy, and I'm really focusing right now on my speaking and coaching, building an entrepreneur community where I can really build a lot of resources to just help get business owners along the path. It's a
So,
it's a tough job. It's a tough job, and it's lonely a lot of times.
when did you start studying jujitsu? And then obviously you found a
Mhm.
passion for it, and that's why you opened the school.
The school was this playing out of circumstances that we never thought would happen. It wasn't really in the cards, and it wasn't really in the plans, but it just happened the way it did, and we're really happy that it did. But I was never sitting with this dream to start a jujitsu school. Um, but I started jujitsu in, let's see, 2007, and yeah, walked into a school, and I was a big meathead weightlifter, had done about 4 or 5 years of another martial art, and yeah, walk in during jujitsu class, not even knowing it was jujitsu, and they threw me out there with a kid like, gosh, half my age, half my size, and they said, "Hey, you need to take him to the ground, get on top of him or control them, and then choke them. Like, watch, he's choked. This guy's choking this guy. This guy's doing an arm bar. I go, oh, I watched that on UFC. That looks easy. And they just said, take it easy on that kid over there. And I'm like, why are they doing this? This kid's going to get hurt, you know? And they told me, they said, Matt, if he taps, when he taps, stop what you're doing. And if you want him, you know, maybe you want him to stop, just tap on him. I said, I'm not going to tap on him. Right. And you know, because we just talked about this before we hit record, dude, I go out there and this kid just humiliates me. I come charging at him, throws me on my back, jumps on top of me. I'm like, I can feel like the video game life bar is going down. Right. So I just go to bench press this kid and he spins arm bar, you know, tap out, go back again. I'm getting choked, wrist locked, leg locked, everything. And I said, if he can do that to me, you know, imagine what I could do if I learned what he's doing. So yeah, I was hooked ever since. Jiu-jitsu is cool because it's an outlet for me as a business owner, but it really teaches you to be under immense amounts of pressure where you can just stop that engagement. You know, you can stop it with the tap of a hand, right? But you also can, every time you get under this pressure, take it a couple steps further, and it builds grit, it builds resiliency, it pushes you out of your comfort zone. And those skills really translate into business and leadership.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I used to train, I remember I used to, because I was strong, I thought I could just outmuscle everybody. But the problem was,
Right.
is once I got tired, then it was like, I was worried now because I was extremely tired. And then it's like what jujitsu teaches you, it teaches you to like learn how to relax. Like you know, that when the new people come into the academy, they go 100% and they're like floundering around. And like, that's when actually people get hurt, when they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
And,
Very much so.
And I just remembered as I got better, I would learn how to relax and everything, you know, like you could train at like 25% of, you know, your full exertion and you were way more effective and you could roll for like 2 or 3 hours versus like, if I went in there, I'd be spent after 5 minutes trying, like my you know, the grip, my grip was gone because I was grabbing their
forearms
lapel.
are burning.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Jiu-jitsu is like, it was the first martial art that actually worked, meaning like a small guy could beat a big guy, and it's exactly what you said. Like that's the like, it's amazing that I've seen this sport from when I was like 17 and I first was getting popular. You know, this was years and years ago. To see where it's at now, and then I you know, I still watch and kind of follow the Gordon Ryans of the world, and you know, and his ego posts on social media, but it's a wonderful
he posts
sport.
a lot. Yeah.
It's a wonderful sport, and I think
Yeah.
it's good. I think entrepreneurs need an outlet, right? Whether you're lifting weights or you need to be doing daily activity, because if not, you're gonna be stressed out. So talk about your coaching, like so like this is all an evolution, right? Like
really is.
yeah. So what kind of made you say, hey, maybe I can share my knowledge with other entrepreneurs? And what's the coaching program? I don't know where you're at with it, if it's fully running right now, but like, what does it look like for somebody that comes into your, you know, atmosphere there?
Yeah, it's a couple things going on. It's really funny because, like, you know, growing up, the kids I grew up with in New Jersey, they're dead, they're in prison, or they're disappeared, right? So I got told a lot growing up, you're never going to amount to anything, you're going to end up in prison. So just the fact that, you know, start a business and that's successful. And then my first, I guess, coaching engagement, somebody reached out to me and they just wanted to buy me lunch and talk about marketing. And I was thrilled. I'm like, I get free lunch, you know? And then we're at this lunch, I'm sharing some ideas and some strategies. And he said, hey, what could I pay you? And I didn't have an answer. You know, I didn't know. If you're a coach, you need to know your fees, right? So that just kind of evolved into you know, one-on-one coaching, and then I started, you know, doing some workshops. I've really put aside the one-on-one coaching. What I'm really passionate about and what I have locked down right now is I take small business owners and leaders over to Spain for leadership retreats. So we're going to do one in September. We're going to hike 70 miles of the Camino up north over 6 days with a very strong focus on disconnecting, unplugging, recentering, refocusing, and revisioning. So going to have this amazing cultural experience, scenery, food, you know, everything. But then you're going to come back like super refreshed and recentered. So that's for the busy entrepreneur that just needs to get new perspective. But I'm also in the process, this is very new, of have this vision of this entrepreneurial community where we can all get together, entrepreneurs from all over the world, and have access to resources, coaching, there's power in a group. Well, I found when I was one-on-one coaching somebody, many times I'm like, listen, I don't have the answer for this, but I've got a resource over here. You're much better to connect with this person. And I'm not so proud to not be able to tell you that. So I'm like, imagine if there's 100 of us, 200 of us, where we can all get together. We have common struggles. Entrepreneurs can be lonely. That's just something that I've experienced a lot. So to have this community where you're like, hey, I'm struggling with this in Arkansas, and this guy's like, man, I've got this going on in Florida. And then somebody in Washington says, I got a solution here. I've got an experience that I can share. So yeah, we're working on that. We're going to bring in guest speakers, and then we want to hold this annual summit where we bring everybody together in Colorado or maybe Spain. We'll see, somewhere really fun, just to get together and celebrate and learn and grow more. But this is literally it's an idea right now. I'm really vetting it out, flushing it out, but I have a lot of people that are super excited about it with me.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're a total idea guy, and that's how I am too.
Yeah.
I'm almost too much ideas where I have to really be careful because I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, one of my friends, I run like a real estate investor club, and then when I lived in California, we do live events. Now we do virtual
Mm-hmm.
events because I'm in Vegas now.
Yeah.
And so one of the gentlemen joined us on the virtual event, and then he scheduled a call to talk to me the next day. And so I'm talking to him, and he's like, I think he got laid off. Actually, he was a high paid like tech sales or something, or software
Mm-hmm.
sales. And he's like, I've got 26 he's successful. He's got 26 rental
Mm-hmm.
properties.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're sitting there, and he's like, I want to do something. I can't really figure out. I'm like, well, what are you passionate about? Right. And then he's like, well, most of my rental properties are all Section 8, and I have pretty good
Mm-hmm.
knowledge on putting Section 8 tenants in and running a Section 8 rental business. And I'm like, man, that's your idea right there. You should start it. There's
Yeah.
so many people out there that want to buy real estate, and Section 8 makes sense. There's, you're solving problems, affordability problems for people, and for the investor, it's a good deal for him. So I just started giving him ideas, and I'm like, like, just think of the name. Start with the name of your, whatever this business is. Maybe it's called, section8mastery.com, right? And then
Right.
and you create a course around it, create a community around it. I just gave this guy this information, and he's like, boom, he ran with it. And I'll be interested to see what happens with that. I feel like I have a skill for that. I don't do that for a living, but I have ideas, and I feel like I could be a resource for it. That's probably where, like me as an entrepreneur, I've been mostly in the finance biz since I've been 20 years
Mm-hmm.
old. I've been doing it for 25 years. And I help people solve problems like, okay, hey, I want to buy a business. How do I get financing for this business? Hey, I want to buy this. I'll start a franchise. How do I do that? So, but I've always worked kind of advisory. So that's probably my next phase, So
Mm-hmm.
so when you have these ideas, how do you decide to move with one, or how do you say hey, this isn't going to be a good thing. Let's can this. Let's curb this.
So I was joking with my team. I've got a gentleman. He's worked with me 14 years now. His name's Kevin, and we have this idea right now. This is a totally separate idea. It has to do with a marketing concept that could serve our business, but also lots of other businesses here. And I'm like, hey, 10 years ago, I would have dropped the money, pulled the trigger, and then let everybody know. So I used to get these ideas, and then I'd run with them, very scattered. So I tell entrepreneurs, like, if you have ideas, and that's great, that's a gifting, but find a place to put them and document them. But aside from that is just understanding your story and your purpose and your vision and the legacy you want to leave, and how that idea may or may not align with that too. Because we get, shiny object syndrome, squirrel syndrome. I was told as a kid I had ADD. I had just crazy ideas as a kid, and they're like, oh, you need to be drugged. This isn't the school environment. Sit down, be quiet. So don't stifle that, but don't run with everything either. I think for, the 6 businesses that we've launched, we had a couple more that launched and didn't really go anywhere. And then just a lot of ideas that are at different levels of progression. And we've killed a lot of things too, but they're fun to think about. I think it keeps your brain firing. It keeps your mind active. And I just had breakfast with a buddy. He's looking to totally change and revolutionize how he's doing the chiropractic and healthcare business, because the model he has now isn't working. And we just spent an hour just laying out crazy ideas.
You didn't really, once you had the like the painting business, you essentially really didn't need to start these other businesses. It was more kind of like your your journey, right? Like I think that's important to say. It's like, hey, you could have just doubled down in painting and maybe acquired a
Yeah.
like a painting company, but like that to you, to me, like I think it's okay, like not to go like you can start once you have success with one thing, it's okay to spread then, right? Like you
Hmm.
have to have success somewhere first because then you can
Absolutely.
use that
Yes.
money. Like I'm sure you didn't
Hmm.
start out investing in real estate until you started your painting business took off. Then you're like, okay, well,
Correct.
so hey, where can I leverage? Where can I get the best tax write-offs?
Hmm.
And so, what kind of real estate investing do you like to do? Are you buying apartments? You buy single family?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I first got into, and I always think, I wish I would have bought more and kept more, right? Is always the 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 thought. But we started investing in single family back in, gosh, yeah, 2012, 13. We kind of rolled and consolidated the cash out refi and bought more of those. We actually just rolled all that into a commercial building. So one of the things that I saw was, during COVID, I'm like, hey, if something happens, how can we depend on somebody else's job position, their rent? I don't know what's going to happen. So we transitioned into a building that we own. So we have a big building here in Loveland, and all the companies rent space and parts of this building. It's a really cool space. So we rolled everything into there, but we're also in the process right now. We're doing some self-direction with, IRA, 401k money. And we want to start getting into more multifamily apartment complexes, things like that. Colorado's interesting how it's grown so fast. The numbers just don't make sense like they used to. So I'm kind of got my eye on a few markets. I've been looking at some things, and we're researching pretty heavy, and then want to pull some triggers soon.
What advice would you have for somebody who might be they're in a W-2 and they're in a corporate
Hmm.
world and they don't like it anymore. They're done with it,
Yeah.
but like they're kind of stuck because they don't know what else to do. How could somebody kind of like there's so many options. You go online and you look at all these
Hmm.
franchise concepts you could start, which is
Yeah.
kind of a blueprint, or you can buy an existing business, or you can
Hmm.
start from scratch. Where, what advice would you have for somebody that's like, hey, I need to do something, or I'm dying internally, right? Because they're not happy,
Yeah.
they're not fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people I know are dying a slow death. Gosh, I have a lot of things that I think about with that. Um, in 2023, you can learn anything on the internet. So if you go, man, I'm really interested in this over here and I know nothing about it, just go to YouTube, go download a free course. There's so much material, right? Elon Musk is like, you don't need college, just go to the internet. So start learning skills. I would encourage you, if you're in a job that you hate, is take a couple of paid vacation days and get in a car, jump on a plane, just go change scenery somewhere, go somewhere that you really love where you can recenter, refocus, and just start visioning. Just start thinking about, why do I hate life? What kind of story do I want to have? What is my vision? All right, 5 years down the road, I want to be working for myself. This is what I want to wake up to every day. What gets you excited? What gets you passionate? Like, I hate painting. I do. I'm not good at painting. I'm scared of heights. I don't get on roofs, but I love the people. I love the sales. I love the marketing. I love the chase. So get really clear on what excites you. And then, you hear this a lot. Like Tony Robbins says, if you want to take the island, burn the boats, right? That might not be your personality style. I would not recommend to everybody to go tell your boss, screw you, fire your boss and leave. You have no income anymore. What are you going to do? But there's something to be said about taking, the 1 to 2 to 3 hours that you're coming home and you're just wrecked. So let's go watch some Netflix. Let's eat some candy. I've been there. Take those 2 hours and go learn a skill, learn a trade, and test it, and see if you can make a little bit of money, and just do that math little by little. And you've still got this job. But what's really interesting, and I haven't been in this position just because I got fired, but from the people I talk to that do this, like, they hate their 9 to 5 and they have no hope. So they do. They come home, they drink too much. They're watching Netflix, eating peanut M&Ms. But the minute they start finding something that they're excited about, they're like, I worked 15 extra hours last month and I made $100. Like, they made something from nothing, and they're like, I can at least go deal with this 9 to 5 because I'm going to work another 15 hours, and that's going to be 200, and then 400, and then 800, and then, oh, okay, just keep doing it, and then you can come back. And I call it jump ship. But that just gives people hope. um, and there's so many ways to make money. There's so many opportunities, so many things to do. And the last thing I'd say is I just did a video. I do these little morning coffee videos. Is I have the secret to becoming an overnight success. And it is that you work relentlessly for 10, 15, 20 years. It's something you love. And you work while nobody's watching you, caring about you, believing in you, doubting you, following you, whatever it is, right? And you just put your head down and work. And then you look up and all of a sudden you're successful. There's really no secret to it, and there's no shortcut. So yeah, that's what I'd say to people that are listening that are stuck. It's okay to try things and okay to fail at things.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying. I mean, I like everywhere I'm just always looking. I always ask questions too. I think asking questions is important. Like my garage door wasn't
Yep.
staying down, so I called Googled and got somebody to come to the house. Or actually, there was a sticker on my garage door, so I called that
Mhm.
number. And this young guy came out. We're talking. I'm a friendly guy, so and he
Yep.
was just telling me, yeah, I just started working with this company like 5 months ago, and he's doing very well for a 30-year-old guy working for this company. But he's like, yeah,
Mhm.
the guy that owns this company, and he starts telling me about this garage door industry, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy, the owner of this company, is making tons of money. And so all these people I know that are very successful, I started saying like all these things that I never thought about, like painting businesses, like garage door repair, um,
Yeah.
even landscape companies. And then a friend of mine at the
Mhm.
gym, he's owns a very successful plumbing company, and he's telling me, yeah,
Yeah.
we did like $13 million in revenue, and he is
Hmm.
like the one of the biggest plumbing companies
Yeah.
around here. Then he
Yeah.
expanded.
Hauling. Yeah. Got a buddy. He takes people's trash out of their house, hauling junk. He was a police officer. Quit his job. He was selling insurance and just not digging it. And he got a truck, got a trailer. Now he's got 3 or 4 of them, and doing $1 million just taking people's junk to the dump.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's totally amazing. Like everybody thinks they need to reinvent the wheel, but like really, if you just
Hmm.
get out there and like what you did with $100 and then started the painting
Yeah.
company, right? And like,
Yeah.
I don't think you paint. You don't have to paint. Like you might have painted in the beginning because you had
Got
to.
bad at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't want me painting your stuff.
yeah. Like I couldn't do any. I would own a
Yeah.
service-based business, but I'm not very handy, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is, can you get the right people? Can you hire right? Can you
Yeah.
can you build community? And that's the real key of being a
Yeah.
successful entrepreneur and business
Yeah.
person. It looks like you wrote 2 books. Like there's one that's just
I
coming
did. Yeah.
out.
Hmm.
There's Become an Award-Winning Company,
Yep. This
and
one.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then
2011. I wrote this. Hmm.
okay, and then there's a new one. I don't know if it's released or not, called Painted
Hmm.
Baby.
Yeah. Painted Baby came out January 31st. Yeah. So it's been out just for a few weeks.
So Painted Baby is an interesting like title. Can you kind of dive in and
Yeah.
just tell us what the story's about?
Yeah. The premise is that painting a picture of perfection prevents true connection with other people. So we live in a world where we're constantly being peddled the perfect life, the perfect wife, the perfect vacation, finances. Right? You go to social media, and we're just conditioned that we have to show up as this person that A, we're not, B, we can't be, and C, we think the other person really is, and they're not, and they can't be. So in sales, we're also conditioned to show A+ 5-star shiny marketing brochure, right? So that's how I sold when I started my business. And Painted Baby, like I'm sitting at a sales appointment. I'm going to close the biggest deal of my life. It's 15 times the normal contract that we had in the painting business, a $60,000 job. And I'm closing, right? Feature, benefits, 5-star. Here's the shiny $5 brochure. And this guy's a customer of mine. He throws it across the room. He's like, "This is crap, man. Stop all this. Tell me about a time you screwed up and what you did about it." Because that's what shows what you're made of. And I ended up sharing with him a time that our painting company, we had a paint sprayer explode on a job site, painted a baby. And like, that's a bad day at the office. That's a really bad day at the office for us. And we handled the problem. And I didn't realize that within that accident, that mishap, that mistake, that moment of imperfection, that's where you really show up as a person. And when you can share those stories well with people, that's when they connect with you. They go, "Oh, wait, this guy's just human. Hold on a minute. Like he's not getting it right as a dad, as a business guy, as a whatever. Oh, well, I'm not either. Well, let's talk about it." And this, I closed the deal after I shared this story, and then just went on this journey of discovering, like, how do we really connect as people? So the challenge to readers is stop trying to be perfect, show up as who you are. You have a dirty little secret that when you can capture craft and communicate it well with others, you're going to build deeper relationships with more clients, vendors, people, and it's just going to make your life better, period. And it's been a fun story to share. And my daughter shakes me down. She gets like 25 cents a book. That's her on the cover. So
That's
yeah, it's been
that.
really fun to share with people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I look at it like I know when people call me for financing, I'm very like transparent, and like I want to do the best thing for them, whether it's I do their loan or not. And I think that reflect that like people get that feeling hopefully from me, right? Like where
Yeah.
I'm not like, hey, it's not about getting squeezing every penny out of everything. It's really about doing the right thing always. Um, and that sometimes means that I'm not going to make a commission because I'm giving
Yeah.
them advice. And I just
Hmm.
chose my that way to live my life. And I think that it comes back, that karma
Yeah.
that comes back to you over time where like um it's okay to be like that. And I interviewed this
Hmm.
guy on my podcast about communication. He's a communication expert, teaches people how to do public speaking and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, for a real estate guy, you're really compassionate because he's used to talking to like training real estate
Yeah.
people. And he said that
Uh-huh.
about me. And I'm like, man, I was like, I kind of feel that. I mean, I feel that, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a cool thing. It's okay to be a compassionate male or whatever. Right? It's okay not to
Yeah.
always be
Yeah.
trying to like sell everybody everything.
Hmm.
And just being transparent. I love it. It's an interesting story. And like, that is what closed the deal, right? Because I think people
It
want to
was.
know.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
like, hey, you're telling me how you're going to do this great job and like nothing, but then you let them in and said, well, it's not like we're perfect, things happen,
Hmm.
but also people want
Yeah.
to do business with people where they feel like that person is like, if something went wrong, they're going to make it correct. And they're not going to say,
Yeah.
hey,
Hmm.
we painted it and I can't help it that somebody put their fingerprints on it. It wasn't us, right? Like, no, we're
Right.
going to make it, we're going to make it correct. So interesting, interesting book, interesting title, but now I got the story. It's pretty cool.
It's been fun, and it's a collection of stories because I mean I went out and I experimented with this. I said, I'm going to stop with the shiny marketing brochure, and I started interjecting the story as I got really good at telling it at different places within the sales process. And I mean, it raised our close rate 10 to 15%. That's for me, that's for other salespeople. And then we actually, we did this photo shoot because we did a big marketing campaign where this was all over bus stops, bus benches, direct mail, to catch people's attention. And we just started sharing this story. It was one of our biggest marketing campaigns ever. And yeah, then I went out and interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs with really interesting stories of struggle, failure, being down and out, whether it's personally or professionally. And when they started sharing these stories with people, they saw the same kind of connection happen. And, the thesis is that just being real, vulnerable, honest, and just who you are is what builds connection with people. And those connections is what builds your business. Not just trying to be, the perfect 5-star. Like when somebody says, oh, we don't have any upset customers, that's BS. Talking to a guy yesterday. Hey, I want to talk to one of your happy customers and one of your not happy customers. We don't have any unhappy customers, but my competition does. Like, dude, you're done. Like you just lost me.
It's true. Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I mean, everybody's got, and I think also too, if like when you're validating something, like let's just say it is a huge painting job and they want to call past clients, like if you're not willing to give them people's contact information, because you never really know, like you could. I just signed up for a course that I wanted to take, a class I wanted to take. I just kind of liked what it was going to be about, but then
Uh-huh.
I got all the stuff and like I was like, man, this is a lot more time than I'm gonna have to spend in this course I wanted to take. And I'm like, and then I
Right.
was thinking, well, I should have found out more about it before I jumped in,
Yeah.
right? To make sure you, but when I'm buying something too, it's good to validate, right? It's like, especially if you're spending a lot of money, it's like you never know. I work with a lot of people that are buying franchises, for example, and they're
Hmm.
like, they don't know what they're getting into yet. So it's very important to
Yeah.
talk to people and like to verify and like, hey, you gotta like. So when I'm buying something now, I always kind of use that what we call validation in the franchise space. Like I want to call people and say like, hey, is this like if I was getting in a coaching program, right? Like I wanted to get in your coaching program,
Yeah.
I'd want to talk to people that are in the coaching program
Yeah.
before I spent several thousands of dollars, right?
Hmm.
And that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like I think that's important. Like, hey, I'm thinking about, and like when people don't allow you to like, nah, we don't do it that way. Well, there's probably an
Yeah.
issue there, right? Like, hey,
Yeah. Something we
you're
don't want you to see. Hmm.
Here's 10 people that are in the coaching program, or 5 people. Feel free to call anybody. Usually you got to text them or email them and make an
Yeah.
appointment because they have to,
Yeah.
they're busy. But then you get on and you're like, that to me is the ultimate way to sell. Like, hey, like, if you want to, you can feel free and
Yeah.
talk to people. And then social proof is also important too. Like other
Yeah.
customers, what they're saying. We use a lot of video. It sounds like you're a marketing guy too yourself.
I love marketing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just one of my fun things. And I share with business owners because there's always this fear, oh, I don't want to get a 4-star review or anything negative. I'm like, that's your most powerful review. Think about it. You go buy Painted Baby, right? Like I can't wait for a negative review because people are going to read that and they'll more so make a conclusion about the person that wrote the review. So there's legitimate times in the painting company where we screwed up, we did bad, we didn't show up as our best self, and this customers pissed about it and they wrote about it and we responded, and people can see that, and we handled the issue. And then they came back and said, hey, thanks for handling the issue, like that this was a legitimate issue that needed to be resolved. And then you have these 1 stars, you have these other reviews where it's trolls, it's people that are never going to be happy. And just read the language. You can tell many of the times that you couldn't have done anything to make those people happy, but it's going to come up. And I see a lot of business owners, they're way too overly concerned and they're scared of them. And it really is some of your best tool. What would that story be that you don't want your competition to find out and go tell everybody about you and your company? Go tell it first. It's the classic Eminem in the end of 8 Mile, right? Like, what did that guy have to, if you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
went and roasted himself and then roasted the guy he's roasting, and then that guy just stood there speechless. He had nothing else to say.
Yeah, like when I'm talking to clients about like financing and like, oftentimes I'll be getting interviewed or and telling my story like about why I got into real estate investing and financing, and I tell them about 2007 when I didn't know anything about real estate investing and I owned 8 properties and the market went down 60% and I got wiped out. It was an early midlife crisis.
Hmm.
I don't mind sharing that story. I don't mind sharing, like, hey, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes and I still make
Yeah.
mistakes today. I'm human, right? Like, but I like to
Yeah.
share that because I think people want to know, like, hey, like all these people now want to buy real estate, right? Like, hey, I want to get out of the rat
Hmm.
race. I want to buy real estate. And like, it's like, I keep it real with them. Like, hey, listen, real estate's not the easiest thing either. Like
Yeah.
you see people on social media, it's jading you thinking like, oh, this person's making 100 grand a month on his Airbnb
Hmm.
properties. Well, you don't know the whole story, and they're only showing a
Yeah.
little piece of it, and that's why I get away from social media. It burns me out sometimes. I like the
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
the podcasts and stuff, but you got to be careful about, especially if I had children. I don't have children yet. Maybe I'll be an old dad, but the point is, if I had kids, I'd be very selective of what they see because I think
Yeah.
it's harming a lot of these kids.
And I already see I've got a 15-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, and not that I don't see it with my son because I do. He's not into the social media, but I'm starting to see things already like that. My daughter Haley is starting to think about, talk about, be self-conscious about, and like, yeah, that stuff's all out there. I mean, a lot of what you see on social media, it's not. Just go scroll through your feed. Even what are you posting? What do you see everybody else posting? Oh, things are great. It's the perfect photo. I do the morning coffee video every morning, and it's like how many, how many sometimes how many bloopers I have or how many screw ups until I get that great one. So yeah, I wish people would be more. I think there's a big wave of vulnerability, and especially with male entrepreneurs, right? Like it's okay to not be strong and not be tough and not have the answer and get knocked down. That's totally fine. Like quit thinking you need to be so tough and right and certain all the time. It's okay to not know. And I feel like as leaders, that wave of more vulnerability coming within business, especially with men, we have a harder time doing it. I know I did for a really long time.
Yeah, I actually just recently hired a performance and business coach. Never had a coach in my life,
Mhm.
and it's game changer. Like everybody
Mhm.
needs a coach. Everybody and
Yeah.
it's like I can't even explain what it is. It's like so therapeutic for me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can't. There's certain things in your life that you don't understand that are like happening to you, and then like I can. My coach isn't this older guy, but he's been coaching for a long time. He's like 84 years old. I got
Hmm.
referred to him, and it's just like he's not the coach that's saying do this, this, and this. It's like
Yeah.
we're it's like realization of like what has held you back in your life.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like it's funny the stories you tell. Like I told him about like when I was in 8th grade, I beat everybody in wrestling. I was always just like a strong kid, right? And
Right.
then I got up against this guy, and I was extremely intimidated off the bat because he had this rep that he's just a total badass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy pinned me in like 30 seconds. And I still, this
Mm-hmm.
was 8th grade. I'm 45 years old. I still think
Mm-hmm.
about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
what if I wasn't intimidated and I wrestled? He still might have beat me, but he would have never pinned
Mm-hmm.
me in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
like that still sticks with me, like in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. And then I always tell my coach, I feel like I'm only getting to 90%. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
get very good at stuff, and then I'll like maybe I'll stop doing it. Even like when I got my blue belt in jujitsu,
Mm-hmm.
like for whatever reason, I stopped right after I got my
Yeah.
blue belt in jujitsu. I quit, and to this day,
Yeah.
it still bugs
Yeah.
me. And so you gotta like, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things in your mind that you have to unpack and you have to like
Yeah.
finalize. That's why I love what you're doing with your community. Like, because
Yeah. Thank you.
people need this stuff. People need this stuff. Even people that are making 7 figures a year
Mm-hmm.
consistently, they need it more than the average Joe because everybody's got the
They
same
do.
problems going on.
Yeah, and I think everybody's got a point in their story and in their life where they had an experience like that, and they made a decision, there's now a programming and a belief system, and it's a pattern, right? That you run in everything you do, right? So yeah, I'm sure that blue belt has something to do with the wrestling. It's like, hey, I'm really good, but I'm only so good, so I'm gonna ride on how good I am, but then I'm gonna stop there. So it's like, where in life, where in business, where in whatever else that you're doing, do you only get so far, but then you can't push through to that next level because there's like some kind of fear there of the kid that pinned you.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah,
always this kid's going to pin me syndrome kind of running around.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've got the same kind of stuff going on. So
And that's why everybody needs the community to talk to, like wherever you're
yeah.
at. And that's what I like. People need this more than ever right now. I feel like being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur or starting to be an entrepreneur is the most lonely thing, right? Like I come into my home
Hmm.
office, I'm here now, and it's I'll sit here and I grind hard. I work
Yeah.
hard. I enjoy it. I get to create content. I also, obviously close loans, do things like that. But
Right.
some days are not good. And like other
Hmm.
people would be like, man, you can, I'm sitting in my shorts right now, but nobody knows, right? Like, but I can do whatever I want. And some
Yep.
people dream about that, but doesn't mean that that person is super happy about what they're doing, right? Like you
Hmm.
have
Yep.
to evolve. I love what you're doing in Spain because I think getting out of your comfort zone. So like my wife is originally from Mexico, so now I go to Mexico a lot.
Awesome. Yes.
And when I go to Mexico, it's like it's total relaxation.
Hmm.
I'm a completely different version.
Yep. Yep.
And then I start realizing like it's funny because I always feel like I have to be in front of my computer. I'm solving problems.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. Like I'm so in the trenches. But when I go to Mexico, I'm like, wait, I don't really need to be doing what I was doing, right? I just have
Yep.
this habit where I'm coming in every day. So you have to like figure all this out. So you need
Yep.
a peer group of people that will help you do it, man. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Hi, this is Beau Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. Are you a real estate investor with properties and you're trying to figure out how to refinance or grow your existing real estate business? Need some clarity and a game plan for moving forward? I'm offering a free strategy call where we dive deep on your real estate investing goals. I'll help you come up with a strategic finance plan that will help you get to where you want to go. Whether you've got a portfolio of 30 properties or you're starting out with your first property, I have a framework that has helped many investors grow. If you're interested, book a call below in the Calendly link.
Well,
Yeah.
man, I appreciate sharing all this, man, and this has been a lot of fun.
It's a therapy session.
It is, and it's so cool with the podcast, right? You're going to provide so much value to the people listening to this, and they're fun to do. So yeah, I'm in the process of we're putting one together too. So part of this community is going to be that as a resource. So I'll have you on when I launch mine.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. What I can tell you is podcasting is amazing because you meet people that you never would meet. And then because of my podcast, people book calls with me. And like,
Yep.
it was funny. This guy booked a call recently and I was like looking, he was interested in real estate financing and he wants to buy real estate. And I was like, and anyways, he happened to live like in town. He worked out at my gym and we never even knew that. And like, then we met up at the gym. Now we're friends and he's connected. He's taken me to like a UFC fight. Like, it's just cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, so you'll you'll meet so many people. I can't tell you. I think like your personality, you're gonna freaking love podcasting because you're gonna get to meet all these incredible people that you wouldn't have
Yeah.
met, and then you can bring them into your network too. Like, and then like even at
Yep.
meetups, I do a show on every Friday morning. We're not going to do it today, but I do a show with this big multifamily syndicator guy. He's a 70-year-old Indian guy named Vinny Chopra, very
Uh-huh.
successful. And I met him at an event 8, 9 years ago, and
Yep.
I didn't know who the heck he was. I bought him lunch, and we've been friends for 9 years. Now we do a show together, and the guy's, he makes
Yeah.
millions and millions and millions of dollars and buys $60 million properties. It was
Mhm.
all just because I've networked. And then
Yeah.
the community really supports the events I've done. People have come up to me. Like I was just at an event and my friend Terriel came up to me and we're like talking and like, he was kind of digging at me for certain things. And then, but he's like, Beau, he's like a Russian guy. He's like, Beau, I can't even do his accent, but anyways, he's like, I want you to know you increased my net worth $1 million. And then he
Yep.
starts going into this story about how he got connected to one of my friends who was doing a lot of cold calling, and he got my friend to cold call, and he added 2 big commercial properties to his portfolio because of that.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I am doing
Yeah.
the world some good. I think that's good to get
Yeah.
that reassurance sometimes.
It is, and I would close too with talking about the loneliness, and it's like I'm in the basement of my house right now, podcasting, working, doing what I'm doing, and but when you get those stories, I'm getting these reviews back on the book. People are reaching out to me about the book or the morning coffee video I did. I mean, I've had some really cool just stories of people that were like, man, I was going one way. I was really discouraged, down, out, whatever. And you just said something and I was just doing my thing. I didn't think much of it. Right. And then totally different direction. So that's good to have. Yeah. And it's good to remember that you're impacting people.
Yeah, totally. Well, Matt, where's the best place people can follow you and find you?
Yeah. MattShoup.com. So I've got a set of free leadership and business resources, and then, link to all the socials where I've got my morning coffee videos. I'm doing them in English now and Spanish, giving Spanish a try. And all the info on the books, the retreats to Spain, that's all there on the website.
Wait, you're fluent in Spanish?
Yeah.
I need some lessons. Seriously.
Dude, yeah.
I didn't tell you this, but when I met my wife in Mexico. She's from Jalisco.
Okay, cool.
I was there for a carnival. She's a friend of a friend. She didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish. Saw this beautiful girl. We were, had
You
the
just
cousins.
dance. That's all you need to do, man.
Yeah, I was band dancing. But like,
Yep.
yeah, that's the one thing too. I always wanted to learn Spanish, but that's like, for me to learn Spanish is so hard. But like, I have a huge Mexican family that I can't communicate with. Like, it would be so cool. And now that I want to spend, so anyways, I got to do maybe some Spanish immersion, like go away and do like where they teach you Spanish for like a month straight.
It's the best way to do it. If you have an opportunity with what you do, go remote. I mean, go down to Mexico. I took the whole family to Spain for a couple of months, and you just plant yourself in there. You'll learn more in 2, 3, 4 months than any kind of classes or chat groups or things like that. So
Cool. Well, anyways, everyone that's
Appreciate you, man.
watch this was a great episode. We talked about a lot of stuff. You never know what rabbit holes you're going to go down, but like
Yep.
you and I were just dialoguing about a lot of important things and like the framework. And I think the recap of this is like, listen, the sky's the limit for anybody that's out there. You can do whatever you want, but even when you get down to your final $100 and you're 200 grand in debt and you feel like your life's not going to be prosperous, you can change that all, really. It's just a mindset shift. And it was like, I got to do this. And sometimes it takes that, like, where you're almost completely done, right? You're like, you have no other option than go and do it. And that's what happened to you, it sounded like. You had no other option to go and do it. And it forced you to do it because the other alternative was filing BK and like moving in with a family member kind of thing, right? Like, so I think,
probably.
Yeah. And I think that's why, if you can build that grit, and sometimes I think the society's, that's another thing that we're as a society, we're becoming too soft. I mean, it's good to be compassionate,
Super soft.
but we gotta build. That's why I listen to David Goggins sometimes, because he gets me going.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we've been going way too long. I told you 30 minutes and we went an hour.
No, man, I love it. I appreciate you, man. And we'll definitely stay in touch. I'm excited to see this episode launch, and we'll talk more, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Hey guys, Beau Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.